Hello. So today we're going to talk about colour and RGB and HSL, and we'll just try and clear this up a little bit to make a bit more understanding. So, if everybody's using the same terminology and same understanding, then life becomes a lot easier, especially in group working. So what we're going to talk about first is RGB. Okay, and in the image above we have one frame, and we've got a house in the middle, and we've got a combination of red, green and blue within that image. Okay, so the bit I want to get across here is how we have dominant colours and non-dominant, and at the moment when we look at these three bars, they all look roughly in the middle until we alter some of them. Okay, let's increase blue. Now blue's dominant. If I reduce blue, green a bit dominant there, red's still there. If I reduce blue all the way to the bottom, reduce green, now red becomes dominant. Okay. And green is dominant. So we can see that as we alter different colours here, it's changing the image right across the image, because it's unlikely there's a pure red, green or blue within this image, in this image. So we can't directly target that exact thing we want to change. Okay. So quite often when we obtain a LUT, we don't get the results we expect, because the LUT was created on an image and it's going to apply certain effects, and when we talk about HSL and RGB across the image, different things can happen. Now we're going to go across to HSL, okay, which is this one here. It looks like a line graph. Now first of all, HSL stands for three words: hue, saturation and luminosity. Hue is made up of 6 colours, okay, and probably the best way to think of a hue is the origin, the root colour of the colour we're looking at. So for example, pink, the origin colour could be red, burgundy is red, navy blue is blue, for example, and so on. So every colour has a root colour to it. Now, the image above we're looking at, the frame here, has got many different colours in there. So therefore, it's going to have hues, all different hues, of the range at the bottom here. So we've got red, yellow, green, and so on. Okay. Now, sometimes in this line here, you'll see orange in certain programs. And if we look along this colour graph here, we've got red to yellow, a bit of orange there, to green, to blues, to reds. So we've still got red, green and blue, but with a few extra colours here as well. All right. So the hue of a colour, a single colour, is that dominant colour. Okay. Or if you were to subtract that colour, then it would not be that colour at all. Okay. So that's the first thing to get across. So it's the dominant colour. Now, just because we're going to change a colour within a frame, because we suspect it's the dominant colour there, it may not be the dominant colour somewhere else, but we're still going to reduce it. Okay, so let's have a look at this dead looking grass. If I click on this grass with this dropper here, it's identified here on the left hand side in between red and yellow, sort of like this orangey colour here. So if I increase this, now as I increase this, look at these three this graph called the parade on the bottom right hand side as it alters. Okay. All right. And look at the grass at the same time. We're changing the hue of the grass. Okay. Right. Now, when we look at the point I've just moved, it doesn't look like we've moved to a different colour. Now, if we go back to RGB, remember what we said about the dominant colour and recessive colours. So as blue increases, blue becomes dominant. But if green was more dominant, okay, here. Now it doesn't look like green's that dominant, but if I remove blue, green becomes a lot more dominant. Okay. We're going to reset these back in. Right. So if I go back to the line, all right, click on this grass again, If I make the grass more dominant, it means it's making something else more not dominant. It's pushing something else away. And if I make it less dominant, something else is going to be pushing in to become more dominant. Okay, so just because the colour's changing, there are 6 colours at the bottom, and if you were to look at it as a bar chart, I'm reducing one of those colours. So therefore, there's going to be somebody else who takes over the dominant place within those colours. Okay, so the dominant colour is that root colour of a colour. So for pink, it could be red. For burgundy, it could be red. Loads of colours. You know, every single colour has a hue to it. Okay, any pure colour, any single colour. All right, not like a mix and match like the frame you can see here on the screen. So let me talk about saturation. Okay, now the saturation is how, when we increase that hue and we get closer to being pure. Okay, so I think the best way to explain this would be this. If we go over to RGB, you'll notice these bars here are not at the top. So I could get red and I could push all the way to the top. I'm increasing that saturation. The more of that red becomes pure on the screen. The ultimate pure saturated image for red would be a red picture, a red whole screen picture. Okay? So saturation is how we get closer to that pure colour. Okay. Now we have luminosity. All right. So we want that colour to become a bit, well, it's luminous. We want it to come out a bit more brighter. Okay. So I think luminosity is probably the easiest one. So let's go back to HSL. Okay. Now, if we look at this tab here, we've got hue v hue, hue v saturation. So if I click on hue v saturation, click on grass again. Okay. So I'm going to use the hue of this grass here to increase the saturation of that grass. So now we've got more orange. Or I can reduce saturation and go to black, to darker grey. Okay. So I'm using the hue value to increase or decrease the saturation. With hue v hue, I'm using the hue value to alter the hue value. It's not going to increase the saturation. It's going to make another colour more dominant or recessive. Okay. And then we've got another one here, which is the hue v the luminosity. So if we go to hue v saturation, we'll increase that grass to more orange. Then go to the luminosity, click the grass again, and we can increase that sort of fluorescent sort of brightness to it, maybe. Okay. So hue is the dominant colour within a colour, the single one dominant colour. Okay. The saturation is the quantity of that colour that makes it a pure colour within that image, within that single colour. And the luminosity brightens it and gives it a bit of what you can see on the screen. Okay, a bit of luminosity to it. Luminous. Right, I think that should do. I can go further into this and we can talk more about it if I'm asked to do it. And we can go into tints and everything else. But the takeaway from this is to understand that hue has 6 colours. If you alter one of those colours, okay, you're going to make another colour dominant while making a colour recessive. If you make that hue dominant, that means another colour is going to become a recessive colour. Okay, the same for RGB, the red, green, and the blue, which means that if you change the RGB values, as you do, another colour is going to become dominant or recessive within that group of colours, within the 3 colours. Okay. Now, the other takeaway is to do with the saturation. Understanding that saturation is the quantity of that colour within part of an image. I'll go over this very quickly again, actually. I'm just going to bring that down to here, and what we're going to do is go to the luminosity and just reset this as well. Okay, so this is the hue, the saturation. We look at the sky. So if we click on the sky, we've got this blue here. Now I can clearly see this blue here anyway. Now if I bring that down a fraction, we're sucking the colour out. Okay, and if I increase it again, we're heading towards as much as possible within this line here to get pure blue there. So increase that saturation. Okay, decreased, increased. Okay, if I push this up slightly and go over to here, I can still click here and I can change colour. Now, because I've changed the hue, all right, by making the blue more dominant, it means that something else has happened within the 6 colours. Okay, hue takes a bit of practice and will often go wrong. Saturation, well, it's fairly straightforward. And luminosity, again, subjective and personal preference. But hue takes a bit of practice. Start with RGB, understand how these 3 colours work together, okay, how they affect each other. And you're looking at a whole frame. The way we're doing it at the moment, we're looking at the whole frame on the screen. I really hope that helps. Any questions, ask. And thank you very much. Bye-bye.